Hello and welcome to another episode of the Theo Keeps Talking podcast, where you may laugh or you may learn. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. My name is Theo, and the most important question of the day: how are you all doing? Last time I talked about the first topic in the Best Days of My Life series, which is Pokemon. And I think I had a really good time reminiscing on that one. And funny enough, it still has a chokehold on me. The new game Pokopia, came out on March 5th, and I'm in love with it. I didn't anticipate loving it this much, but knowing me, why wouldn't I? It's a mix of Animal Crossing meets Minecraft meets Pokemon, and it's so cute. There's plenty to do. Like, I have not run out of stuff to do in the slightest. So having a good time with that. I think I've also put a fair amount of time into the most recent ports of Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, which I mentioned in the previous episode were one of my first games that I've played in the Pokemon franchise. I took it upon myself to try and complete the Pokedex, because why not? It's only 150 of them. But obviously in the old school days, heavier on the version exclusives, the fossils, you obviously can't get both. You can't get all the starters in one save file. So been enlisting some help there. Got some family, got some friends to help me out. So far I'm at 135, I think, of the OG 150. I don't think Mew is in the game, but hey, I'm having a blast. Pokemon will forever be a part of my life, barring any crazy controversies down the line. Please don't let that happen. In real world news, it's hard to describe the weather patterns of Maryland other than pure chaos. On Monday, it was about 80 degrees. I wore shorts. It was that warm that I wore shorts on Monday, which is insane. And then 2 days later, Wednesday, we had a thunderstorm so strong that it generated a tornado like 15, 20 minutes from my house, which is crazy. And then on Thursday, we had a blizzard. And I just don't know. We just got it all, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got your diversity, we got the nice cost of living, and we got every weather pattern known to man. So Maryland, you treat me so well. Other recommendations to kind of get into before we talk about today's topic. The song, what's it called? Wow. Why didn't I write this down? Should have wrote it down. Watching Us by Leon Thomas and Wale is so good. It's so good. And the real treat of it all is I'm getting to see Leon Thomas, my GOAT, in May. He opens for Bruno Mars. So really excited about that. I didn't get a chance to see him back in November when he was in Silver Spring because I had to work. But this time through, he's opening for Bruno Mars, so real excited for that. But today we're talking about basketball, and not in the same sense that I always have, because basketball is like far and away the most common topic to come up on this podcast, even though, as I've discussed on the previous episodes, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've really been in my groove, but basketball is far and away the most common topic on here. It's one of my largest interests in the world. And today, we will be talking about how I ended up at the Summer League in 2023. Basketball has always been a part of my life. I have no idea what or who specifically got me into basketball, but one of my favorite pictures of young Theo is me playing on a Fisher-Price hoop with the Wizards Michael Jordan jersey on. If you listen to my podcast, you know I'm no stranger to talking about basketball for hours on end in an episode. But what if I told you that the closest I ever been to making it to the league was during my hiatus from doing this podcast. Even though I talked about my love for basketball on the podcast before, I've never talked about my journey with basketball. Little me got into basketball pretty early, was playing in leagues by ages 4 to 5, and the love was there. Around the time that movie Like Mike had come out, and for those who don't know, Lil Bow Wow was probably the most popular person under 16 years old until Bieber happened. But Like Mike was one of my favorite movies ever, along with Space Jam, and those two did their job at solidifying the Michael Jordan as the GOAT propaganda. Little Theo was playing both football and basketball at the same time, and for what it's worth, I was very strong. I was one of the only kids in my age bracket that was able to shoot threes, so that's what I loved doing. Keep in mind that this is the early 2000s where you have Kobe, Allen Iverson, T-Mac, and the fleeting trails of MJ, so the deep two was still gospel. So my coaches didn't love me shooting threes. I can only imagine what it must be like coaching 7-year-olds nowadays, now that the 3-point revolution has already taken place. But when I got into coaching, like on the side here and there when I was in college, it's like, oh my God, they're only shooting threes. But when I hopefully in the future be able to coach as an adult, maybe, just maybe, I can wrangle in the expectations. As far as I can remember, my all-time favorite player has been Vince Carter. He's the coolest player with the coolest dunks and the 2000 dunk contest and all the sauce, man. I mean, the kids say aura, and he had it. I remember in Like Mike, there's a scene where Bow Wow's team is playing the Raptors for a chance to go to the playoffs, and they show a clip of Vince hitting the reversed windmill from the 2000 dunk contest as if it happened in game. But young me, I totally believed it. Every chance I get to pick my basketball number, I pick 15. 15 has been my favorite number as long as I can remember, because it's Vince's number. Young Theo, in addition to shooting threes, was pretty good at basketball relative to my age group. I remember there was a local league I played in with one of my close friends from church, and the second season I played in, our team won the championship together. We were real good. I remember the first game of the season, I had 20, and we were like 6 years old. But the coach had us share the wealth the rest of the season, but we still picked up the dub anyways. I stayed in that local league for a while, but then a crossroads happened. I was about 11 years old and had a pretty good game, and then had an AAU coach come up to me and ask me to be on his team. And all I had to do was show up to practice that Saturday. That was it. This was it. That was the leap for me to truly achieve my wildest dreams. I go home and tell my mom, and she says, "Now who's going to take you to all those games?" And for the first time, reality sunk in. I could feel it. This was my exit ramp to ascension, and I didn't get to take it. In hindsight, it makes total sense. Not only were my local league games no further than 25 minutes away from my house, but AAU is quite costly and logistically complex. The team I'd play on would play anywhere from Central PA to Philly to DC to Delaware, and this was 2008, mind you. The economy was bad, my parents were doing everything to keep everything afloat, and here I am asking them to drive me more places and spend more money. As the lack of AAU opportunity would suggest, I heavily plateaued after age 12. Each year I tried out for my middle school basketball team, and a grand total of 0 of the years I made it. And to be fair, most of the guys on our middle school team went on to play D2 or D3 in some sport, so it'd be like that. At this point, I had pivoted to soccer being my primary sport, which I did deeply enjoy. As the path suggests, I did not play for my high school team either. Multiple reasons. For one, at the end of my freshman year, I was only 4'10", which is not ideal. The next reason was my academic calendar. Soccer started before classes started, so it's easier to balance classes in the fall. Basketball is a whole other beast. You have to travel all across the state as a Maryland private school. And not only that, you have to wait for both the JV and varsity games to end before you get home. To compare, my GPA during the winter was always higher than in the fall for soccer or in the spring for golf. I did stay pretty involved with the high school team, as my junior and senior years I did stats for the men's varsity basketball team, which I really enjoyed. I went to all the home games, but for the road games, the head coach would just send me the film to my email, and I'd give him the stats the next morning. In between all of this, my desire to get better at basketball reignited. My senior year, we had a study hall at the end of the day, and the teacher just took us to the gym, and 95% of the time, the basketball hoops were down, so we could do little 3-on-3 runs. Eventually, we cooked up an idea for our entire study hall group to play an exhibition game against the actual men's varsity basketball team, because what else would a bunch of senior boys in high school who believe ball is life want to do? We called ourselves Ultra Varsity because we have to be better than our varsity team. And the game did happen, but we got smoked. I think this final score was like 96-40 something. It was real bad. The fun part was what we did at halftime, which leads me to a parallel story in my life. By the time my senior year rolled around, I was 5'8". And because of soccer, I could actually jump decently high. One day I rolled up to the rim. Whoa, sentence, Theo. I rolled up to the gym and legit touched the rim off of max vert. So like run up, jump. And I'm a 2-foot leaper. Why I'm a 2-foot leaper, I'm not really sure. Still don't really know. I guess a lot of times Vince did jump off of 2 feet. I don't know. I think it's an innate thing. Some people are just 1, 2, whatever. You don't really get to choose. Anyway, I touched the rim off max vert, and I had the idea of, what if I actually tried to dunk? So over the course of several months, every day after school, I was doing leg workouts I was finding on YouTube to increase my vert. And funny enough, I have the playlist of like my saved videos or like my watch later videos. And in YouTube, they do it in like reverse chronological order. So it's like the first video you added is still like the first video in the little preview. And those videos are still in there. Like the ones I watched to try and increase my vert. It's so funny. But I started doing some math in addition to the workouts. So I was 5'8" with a 7-foot even standing reach. So to touch rim, I need a minimum vert of 36 inches. To dunk a size 7 standard men's basketball, I needed to get like the 4 or so inch radius of the ball over the rim, so that a clean dunk requires at least a 40.75 or so inch vert from me to get it down. I started small, from little wads of paper to tennis balls, and eventually I was consistently dunking volleyballs. The women's ball varied based on grip, but after about 14 or so weeks of training, I was effectively maxing out at like a 40.25 inch max vert. Everyone in our school knew I was trying and would try at any chance I got. My dunking style was extremely specific. It was always a one-handed dunk off 2 feet, specifically landing right foot first, then left, and it was always right, left, 2 feet. Try to yam it so hard. Why did I try to dunk so hard? These are the days I wish my school let us have our phones during the day, so I could at least see what it was doing and see what my approach was and see like what changes I can make. Because one of my classmates kept saying, Theo, I don't think you got to be Westbrook to dunk this ball. It can just be a simple little rim grazer. But mechanically, all I knew was violence, you know? Vince Carter's my favorite, so if I'm gonna yam it, it's got to be ferocious, right? The funniest part of all of this was that the first dunk I ever got was like on my like 80th attempt or so, and I was wearing like khakis and Adidas Superstars. Like I wasn't wearing basketball clothes. I was wearing like my school uniform, and it was weird. I got better air time in pants and Superstars than I did in like shorts and hyper dunks. Like I just don't know. Anyway, this was enough. This was enough confidence that I could do it. So during the Ultra Varsity exhibition game, we had a dunk contest at halftime, and I knew this was my chance. Two days before the exhibition game, I actually got my second ever dunk, albeit on attempt number like 210 or so. But dunk number 2 was a pretty big milestone for me. It meant that it wasn't a total fluke the first time. But I did have a bit of an advantage. There was a very specific Spalding basketball at my school that was regulation size, but had the best grip for my hands I've ever experienced in my life. That ball was the one I got both of my dunks with, so it was effectively a situational yam every single time. For the dunk contest, I begged and pleaded to the actual head coach to save that ball for me, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. In front of a decent amount of our school, I started from the 3-point line, 3 hard dribbles, right-hand dribbles to the left side of the paint, right-left takeoff like always, wrong size basketball and everything. And faithful listeners, I tell you this with all of the honesty in my heart. That was the highest I've ever jumped in my life. If I needed 40.75 inches, I think off of the adrenaline, I jumped 43. I jumped so high, in fact, that I surprised myself, and I didn't know what to do when I got up there. It looked like just like any other miss of mine to the eyes of the untrained, but I felt it in my soul. That was the one. I was so surprised that I initiated the tomahawk early, and it flew off the back of the rim. But man, for just one moment, I knew what it was like to be Vince Carter. Going into college, Drexel had a great pickup scene, and that's where I spent most of my time freshman year. A few weeks into my first year, I actually got my third and final dunk of my life, thus completing my total tally of 3 dunks out of about 235 tries. Oh man, Drexel's gym was so nice. Still the nicest gym I've ever had a membership to. The gym legit rented out Wilson Evolutions, and for those who don't know, those are the gold standard for indoor basketballs. The athleticism got fully canceled out for me when I dislocated my shoulder playing basketball freshman year, and then I started my internship sitting 8 hours a day for 40 hours a week, and it was over. I played intramurals when the time came, but overall just playing pickup basketball where I could. My career arc was a funny one. I could shoot the cover off the ball in middle school and elementary school. High school, I don't know what happened, but my shot was gone. And then college comes and I'm letting that thing fly. Life's funny like that. COVID hits and I become a full-time podcaster for a bit, as some of you were there for, but I love watching basketball. I explained in one of my previous episodes how I used to be a Wizards fan, and now I just watch a few teams here and there. All the same creators, and this is why the recommendation section didn't really include any basketball, because all the same creators I talked about in my final episode in July of 2021, I still watch. So Thinking Basketball, Dunker Spot, Zach Lowe, all the goods. COVID clears up, and my local gym has pickup runs on Saturdays and Mondays, which I still do. So I'll get back into my groove there. actually get into an adult league on the weekends with some friends, which was in last year, which I can summarize as a fun little mess. But man, I was letting that thing fly from 3. But Theo, you may be thinking, you said you almost got to the league. How did you do that? Funny enough, it started from a podcast episode. Around early 2022, I was listening to one of the aforementioned podcasts, Thinking Basketball, and there was a promotion for this seminar called Sports Business Classroom. It was advertised as the best intro to learning about working in basketball. You would be learning from industry professionals across a variety of topics, and the best part is that it would be taking place during Summer League in Las Vegas. I was interested when I first heard about it. Going to the Summer League was always a bucket list item of mine, and to that point, I had never been to Vegas. There were a few obstacles to me going when I first heard in 2022. First, money. The program certainly isn't free. Between the flight and the package options, there was a decent amount I'd need to consider. Second, timing. I was planning to propose to my girlfriend, then girlfriend, now wife, in March of 2023, so I'd need to save all my pennies in 2022 and see if I had any room in the summer of 23, because there's no way I could do it in the summer of 24 when we'd ideally have our wedding. But more on those dates later if you're following along with the series. March of 2023 rolls around, we're engaged, and now it's time to think career. Presumably, summer 2023 is the only summer league I'm going to be able to attend while the timing is right. So I talk it over with the fiance and the parents, and I get started on my application. My resume definitely needed some tailoring. An accountant trying to make the full jump to sports was going to need some good storytelling. As mentioned in a previous podcast episode, I worked at Modell's and for Drexel Athletics, so I was able to toss those on the resume. But I even put a mention of the podcast in my application. I never knew that would come in handy, but here we are. There were 3 main tracks that the program offered, if I remember correctly. So it was scouting and video analytics, it was media and broadcasting, and then it was the league salary cap. I, a math nerd with very little on-camera experience and 0 scouting experience, chose the league salary cap route. And thankfully for me, I was accepted into the program. How much did I truly know about the salary cap? A bit, but I figured I'd pick it up fast enough. Heading to Vegas, I was pleased to be going at the same time as the meteoric rise of food commentator and former MMA fighter Keith Lee, who happens to live in Vegas, so I knew I was going to be having some good eats. Honestly, my Vegas plans were going to be so much more limited than most people. This program was going to have me in Vegas for 10 days, and I don't drink, I barely gamble, and I was newly engaged, so meaning that whatever happens in Vegas is effectively none of my business. Land in Vegas, and man, they want you to get into it early. Slot machines right out our gates. Head to the rideshare spot, and you know what they say about Vegas not being that hot because it's a dry heat? Lies. At the Vegas airport, the rideshare picks you up from a parking garage, and all of that heat gets trapped into the garage, so you're just boiling as you wait. What I do have to say infrastructure-wise is that Vegas's airport is definitively the closest to the metropolitan area that it serves of all the ones that I've gone to. Let's just call it average airport distance to whatever Theo would call the main point of interest of a certain area. And here's what I found. Reagan Airport to the Wizards Arena is 4.8 miles with no traffic, or 11 minutes with no traffic, but you know how DC is. The Philly airport to the Sixers arena is 6.5 miles to 11 minutes with no traffic, but you know how Philly is. BWI airport to the Ravens stadium is 9 miles or 11 minutes with no traffic. The San Francisco airport to the Warriors Arena is 12 miles or 15 minutes with no traffic, but there's no such thing as no traffic in San Francisco. You're out of your mind. Orlando airport to the Magic Arena is 19 miles / 20 minutes with no traffic. And then the Orlando airport to Magic Kingdom is 22 miles or 25 minutes with no traffic. I didn't even bother with LAX, y'all. Ugh, goodness. Vegas's airport to UNLV, where the Summer League is being held, is only 3 miles / 9 minutes with no traffic. Very impressive. The program had us staying at the Virgin Hotel, which is like 1 mile east off of the Strip, but also relatively close to the school. Even though the Virgin didn't have a lot of gambling attractions going on, like the big brands, the food was good, and I really liked the vibes. The room that we stayed in was nice. There was a chlorine pool and a mini beach, which was pretty interesting. I got there 2 days before the program started, so I had some time to get used to like the time zone difference and get a bit of exploration in. The daytime pool parties are legit the only way to consistently not perish from heat stroke. So my first day, even though I'm not a swimmy kind of guy, I was enjoying the water. Our program gave us access to every single one of the Summer League games. So if you were to look it up, the very first game I saw, which was right after I landed, was Houston versus Portland, where Jabari Smith Jr. hits this crazy buzzer beater 3 to win the game. Crowd was going crazy, and I knew I was in for a good time in Vegas. First night in Vegas, I do all my exploradoring because it's finally not sweltering outside. It's truly a night and day experience because out there, since it's a desert, the daytime's like 114 degrees as a high, but the night it's about 80. So I had some decent walking shoes, and I'm glad I did because, as I mentioned before, the Virgin Hotel is a mile east from the main strip, but I had a great time. I walked to the MGM first since that had Topgolf, which I plan to do the next night. And I can see why they have all of the boxing events at the MGM because, my goodness, I think it took me about 15 minutes to walk the length of it. On top of that, you can go from the MGM Grand to the park at MGM, which I didn't know was a different thing. But that was also pretty cool. At the park, they had this thing called Eataly, 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 which was like this giant room with a bunch of food kiosks. It was so cool. And then I migrated up to Cosmopolitan, but everyone calls it Cosmo, which ended up being my favorite. And then up to Bellagio with the fountain show and the plants, which is something cool that you can go into Caesars from the Bellagio without going outside, which I think is really cool. Caesars has that big ass mall, and let me tell you, there's that whole thing about, can you tell what time it is in Vegas? No, you definitely cannot tell what time it is. It was so trippy. In the mall, they had like a projection on the ceiling, which kind of sort of makes it look like you're outside. And I was like, what time is it? Like I went early, like the next morning to check, and I was like, it looks the same. Wild. So like if you're not in a definitive rush and you're not looking at your phone or your watch, you're not gonna know what time it is. Eventually I made it back to my hotel the first night at like, I don't know, o'clock. It was late. And I was on to day 2. Day 2, I was up real early to try to make it to Cosmo so I could get to the one breakfast spot I knew I needed to try. And pardon the name, it's called Egg Slut. I didn't pick the name. I got there at 9 a.m. and I waited in line for like 45 minutes for 2 breakfast sandwiches. Can I say that it was worth the wait? Maybe. Would I do it again? Yes. Cosmo is cool because there's a food hall in there and a whole bunch of stuff that I got to eat, which was so good. I I had a bulgogi sandwich from Largo, which was so good. It was so good. Not in Cosmo, but I had this place called Frankincense Pizza, which was off the strip and was also a Keith Lee recommendation, which was solid. Not my favorite pizza ever, but I still enjoyed it. My highlight of the first 2 days was going to Topgolf with some of the guys from the program. And to be honest, if you had asked me, Theo, what would an ideal bachelor's trip look for you? Like, what would it look like for you? I would have said Topgolf in Vegas so you could see the strip in the background. But in all honesty, it was whatever. It was just Topgolf with the cool background. Like, it wasn't like, I wouldn't say that'd be worth going to Vegas for. It was fun though. I really liked it. I saw a bunch of NBA players there too, so that was cool. I'm not gonna say that I beat Jose Alvarado at Topgolf. That may or may not have happened. But he was there. That's funny. Anyway, there's a lot more NBA players I met. Trust. I don't know if will I go through the list? Maybe I'll go through the list. We'll see. Day 3 in Vegas. It's time to get the program on the road. And being that in the room, the intro event with all 100 plus of us was so exciting. I wasn't sure how I was going to fit in, but just taking in the moment with gratitude. They break down how the days are going to go. We're staying at the Virgin, and a shuttle is going to pick us up at 7:45 every morning and take us over to UNLV. First day was going to be like 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. In addition to that, the expectation is for us to go watch the Summer League games after class, but if not, we could take a shuttle back to the hotel. Monday, day 4, but day 1 of classes, I'm up bright and early. Crazy enough, I never wake up before my alarms or on time, but it was 7:15 and I was alert. Crazy the things you can do when you're excited. We hit the shuttles and it's game time. They did have breakfast and lunch provided for us each class day, which was nice, especially because some of these days were going to be long days. First day, they teach us about the sports job market, then introduce us to our group project while we're there. Our group project would divide us into teams of 6, and we'll be assigned an NBA franchise to suggest how they should run their upcoming season. The project would include a mock trade deadline on Thursday of the program, a midterm presentation where we tell the instructors how we're going to approach the season and the trade deadline specifically, and a final presentation on Saturday at the conclusion of the program. All of this was super exciting, but they add a little cherry on top. The top 5 performers of the program get invited to work the program in the future and will have a industry recognized accomplishment to add to their resumes. This is big. I knew that I came here to see what career pathways there were for me, and being named a top performer seems like a golden opportunity. On the one hand, I feel like I can adapt to any situation, but on the other, my confidence was not sky high. There were former and current Division I basketball players in the program, current professional players, current employees of athletic departments at D1 schools, you name it. Me? I just like basketball. I remember having a conversation with one of the guys, and I swear he knew the names, colleges, and stats of every G League guy you could name. It was definitely intimidating, but I just had to stick with what I could do best: numbers and group projects. And the instructor said that they would announce the teams and team members later on, so it was back to class. It was astonishing how much goes into working in sports. Our instructors were writers from Bleacher Report, ESPN, former front office workers, had some crazy guest speakers like R.C. Buford, and Jerry West spoke to us. It was incredible. Crazy enough, by the time day 1 of classes was over, I wasn't really that tired. It was like drinking from a fire hose for sure, but I was having such a good time. Day 2 of classes pops up, and I thought I'd be perishing trying to get out of bed, but nope, 7:15 on the dot. Motivation will do it to you. They announced the groups and what teams were on, and I'm on the team that will make the game plan for the 2023-24 Charlotte Hornets. Now, on the surface, this is rather stinky. At the time, and even as I'm writing this, all people may know about Charlotte is that they have LaMelo, but they don't do too much winning, which is fair, but you know which one of our team members actually knew a ton about Charlotte? Me. I have, and will always love, pending something insane, even though he does make some questionable driving decisions, LaMelo. I was fully sold into the Chino Hills, then Ball in the Family docuseries that LeVar put on, and I followed every step of LaMelo's journey, from Chino Hills to Lithuania to Spire Academy to Illawarra to Charlotte. I was there. I think LaMelo is one of the craziest stories of landscape circumstances that we've ever seen. And for those who don't know, let me back up a bit. High school basketball is dominated by prep schools. Some of the best high school teams in the country are dedicated sports academies who also offer academics. People pay college tuitions to send their kids to these schools. And if that's not the case, it's a pipeline that offers scholarships for these kids to end up with a particular shoe brand or academy down the line. Kid that's on an Adidas AAU team signs up for this Adidas AAU prep school, Adidas high school or endorsed prep school to go to an Adidas college and then pay off that work by signing an Adidas endorsement deal in the pros. However, in Chino Hills, California, or maybe it's just Chino, California, a dad and his 3 sons were rewriting the game. They all played on the same local high school team together and went undefeated. All 3 brothers were committed to play for UCLA, and by all accounts, this was a major success story. Down the line, for some unknown reason, the middle brother, LiAngelo, is at UCLA, while the oldest, Lonzo, got drafted 2nd overall by the Lakers, and the little one, LaMelo, is in high school. And the middle one, LiAngelo, gets caught stealing while overseas playing basketball in China with UCLA. This story and this family are so big that the current president actually gets him out of jail in China, but UCLA indefinitely suspends him. At the time, LaMelo has a signature shoe through his family's lifestyle brand, Big Baller Brand, which violates his NCAA eligibility because NIL wasn't a thing yet. So now the vision of all 3 kids making it to the league via UCLA is totally gone. To summarize the rest, LeVar, their father, makes a Big Baller Brand league. Jello and Melo play in Lithuania, and it's a mess. Melo comes back and plays at a prep school, Spire Academy in Ohio, I believe, and then does his mandatory pro year in Australia, and then gets drafted number 3 overall by Charlotte. Jello bounces around the G League, makes a very popular rap song in January 2025, and is now with Def Jam. Crazy stuff. All that to think like LaMelo could have had a signature shoe in today's NIL landscape, but here we are. Charlotte has been my go-to NBA League Pass team ever since they drafted LaMelo in 2020. And what a ride it's been. I promise I'll give all of our Charlotte notes in a bit, but just know I was thanking God for assigning me Charlotte and not somewhere like 2023 Utah. We immediately get to work. One key part of the project is to determine what category of team we were going to be, between contending, restructuring, rebuilding, etc. It was evident to us that we were restructuring since we didn't have many desirable assets to sell, and most of our core players were 25 years of age or younger, since Charlotte had just drafted Brandon Miller 2nd overall in the 2023 draft. Now, it's time for some higher level scouting. Charlotte's landscape was not a friendly one. Charlotte had declining attendance over the past few years, and historically was not a strong free agent destination. None of the all-stars in Charlotte's history were free agent signings. All were drafted or acquired in trades. We knew if we wanted to change the direction of the franchise and put butts in seats, we had to make some trades. Another thing we knew we needed to address was the culture in Charlotte. Not sure if you guys have noticed, but over that stretch, Charlotte had employed the following people who were involved in some dispute or another: James Bouknight, Terry Rozier, Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller. Tough scenes. Tough scenes. We knew we wanted to clean that up without trying to mortgage too much of our cap space or our future draft capital. In our first run of the plan, we really didn't come up with much. Little trades on the fringes to boost the rotation, but nothing major. We went into our midterm presentations heads held high, and they shut us down. I took it really hard because I put my all into everything I do. We end up going to the drawing board, because that's our only option at this point. And I say I took it hard. Let's level set. I took it so hard, in fact, that Dave Dufour, an instructor at the program and writer and creator for The Athletic, came to find me so he could talk to me. He gave me some real solid encouragement, and it helped a lot. I took a long introspective walk along the night strip and came back to the hotel, and we started looking at cap sheets. And mind you, when I didn't mention this part, when I say I took a long introspective walk along the strip, I don't know if you guys know how expensive it is to Uber in Vegas. My gracious. I remember one night I tried to go to Park, MGM. There was this restaurant I wanted to try. I think it's called Best Friend. It's a Korean restaurant. And I wanted to Uber. And it's like a mile. It's like a mile away, right? $89. $89. Like, what? So I walked. I got a lot of steps in Vegas. My goodness. Yeah, it was $89 to Uber a mile. It was crazy. Anyway, Dave hypes me up. We were in the hotel. We're cooking. We're crunching numbers. The team's like real supportive and everything. We met Amari Stoudemire, which was cool. And then we locked into greatness. Dave Dufour swung by one more time, gave us some great advice again. He told us that the presentation has to be memorable, so don't get too caught up in the technical. You're trying to sell someone an idea, and we ran with it. It was like 1 a.m. by this point, and the trade deadline was scheduled for the next morning, and I was so ready. We had a plan, and it's time to get it into motion. The sports business classroom Charlotte Hornets had 4 big targets: re-sign PJ Washington to a team-friendly deal, trade for a star perimeter talent, move off of Miles Bridges, and potentially secure future draft capital. The move to re-sign PJ Washington at the time made a lot of sense. We needed some size on the roster, and PJ was a restricted free agent, meaning that we had the right to match any offer extended to him by any of the teams in the simulation. We talked it over between teams and his, quote, agent, and got a team-friendly deal with some team performance incentives baked in to help with the salary cap. Thing 2 was our big fish. Looking at our cap space and our roster needs, we needed a star who could put butts in seats. Our trade target was Zach LaVine. The statistical profile was exactly what we needed on offense. 90th percentile catch and shoot, 90th percentile slasher, can be the play finisher in late clock situations, and, oh yeah, an exciting basketball player. Mind you, we were only a few seasons removed from the 2021 Bulls when they were first in the East for a good little stretch there. LaVine's stock was still decently valuable at that point, so we approached the Bulls SBC, Sports Business Classroom team, and they had been fielding some offers for LaVine, but we had the most enticing offer. We offered Gordon Hayward, who was on an expiring deal, Kai Jones, an unprotected 2027 first-round pick, and a 2029 top 5 protected first-round pick. Even 2023 Theo and his friends knew that a 2026 first-round pick would be franchise-altering. So we went into every negotiation unwilling to move a 2026 first. Crazy we're in 2026 right now, and it's even better than we thought. What's wild is that Cooper Flagg had yet to reclassify at that point. So he was projected to be in this insane class. It would have been him, Cam Boozer, AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, and now you got Kingston Flemings, Darius Acuff. This class is insane. Caleb Wilson, if Cooper Flagg was still in this class, you could say any of the first 7 picks, and you're good as gold. Obviously, you want a top 3 with Cooper Flag, top 4. But like, it's the class is so insane. And when I was writing this script, it's so funny. I found that Flag reclassified on August 11th, 2023. And this event, like this whole thing, was in July. So crazy. We had the foresight and we were right. Even though he reclassified to 2025, we didn't give up a 2025. So, hey, either way, we got Zach LaVine. More on why I say that later. But we got Zach LaVine. Ladies and gentlemen, in June of 2022, Miles Bridges was arrested for assaulting the mother of 2 of his children in front of them. This was more than enough grounds for us to want to move off of him, as he was no longer welcome as a part of our restructuring organization. I'm not sure how we pulled this off, but we offered Miles Bridges to anyone who would take him. And ended up with a 2024 Golden State top 10 protected first round pick from Miami. Not really sure why they did this, but we were over the moon. Last but not least, we got some trades to get some second round picks for Bryce McGowan's, JT Thor, and we got Thomas Bryant. So all in all, we ended up over the salary cap, but below the first apron, and with 1 first round pick lost, but 1 second round pick gained. And we got Zach LaVine. Going into the presentation, I was up all night before. The guidelines were strict. We only got 8 minutes per team, and that 8 minutes had to be inclusive of a feedback window from the instructors of the program. No pressure though, just need to carefully articulate everything you've done this week in about 6 minutes. Nothing crazy. It's presentation day, and like I said, I was up so long. My wife gets up for work at like 4:30, 4:45 Eastern time, right? I was up until 2 Pacific. So I was texting her like, hey, hope you have a good morning. She's like, why are you awake? And I was like, I'm so locked in, you know? So it's presentation day. We are about middle of the order, and I'm very thankful. I was giving the presentation for our squad, and I was able to pick up on some of the things I really needed to emphasize / de-emphasize for our team. Even though I do a lot of public speaking, I was pretty nervous. But when it was our time to go, no more time for nerves. They hand me the clicker, give me the thumbs up, and hand to the Bible. I have never been in a better flow state in my life. It was like I legit worked for the team. No nerves, fully smooth presentation. We got through all of our slides with over 2 minutes to spare. My goodness. One of the pieces of feedback the judges gave the other teams before us was that they failed to highlight their big wins during the project. In taking that feedback, I constantly mentioned how we got Zach LaVine, but I specifically said it like Zach LaVine. The feedback was good, but what a rush it was. By the time I got back to my seat, all of the assistants are dapping me up, and I got the most necessary hug of my life from Dave Dufour. Oh my goodness, it was all coming together. We get to the end of the program a few hours later after everyone had gone through their presentations, and it was time to announce the awards. As they're announcing the presentations, they tell us that Charlotte, had the best presentation. Crazy. Something I never expected a whole group of the people to do was in this room. They were going, Theo. I was like, whoa, this is so crazy. I was so hyped. It was wild. And you know who came up to me for the dap and the hug? Dave Dufour. It was so cool. Each hug, each dap restored my soul. But that moment was so insane. All the stress, all the doubt, all the pressure, it just vanished. We nailed it, and I was so proud of my team. Brooklyn ended up getting the best overall project award, and it was so hard to blame them because they flipped Mikal Bridges and Cam Thomas for like 8 total first round picks. Like, it was insane. And one thing that I didn't mention that Dave told us about how we should do the presentation, in 2023, you may know, you may not know, the Charlotte Hornets went through an ownership change, and Michael Jordan was no longer an owner of the Charlotte Hornets. So in doing so, we uh, put a crying Jordan emoji on, or crying in Jordan meme on our presentation. Just to start, we said, hey, we got some new ownership, and we put crying Jordan right on the Hornets logo. It was really cool. And that was a Dave Dufour suggestion, mind you. But hey, it was now time to name the top 5 performers of the program. And the first name called, Theo Sutton. Oof. Crazy. Now I can definitively say that I've never been in a room where people chanted my name 2 times in 5 minutes. But it was so cool. The other 4 performers were all incredibly deserving as well. But so many of the people of the program did an incredible job. I met so many of my friends, like so many people I still keep up with. Like Leo's doing like crazy stuff with the NBA right now. He just wrote up about Bam's 83-point game. And then like in my team, it was like Ariana and it was Kyle, and like it was like I met so many cool people through that like it was just such a fulfilling experience. Like we really made the most out of everything. And I think down the line, like if I really was thinking like, hey, this could be something special. And I truly do think that we had like an opportunity to do like more things in the future. We all lived so far apart from each other. Like I think Kyle's in Orlando, like some people are in North Carolina, Arizona, like it just was what it was. But like, my goodness, what a dream team that we made. But the program ended, and there's so many connections. I still keep up with like so many of the people. And man, just it was one of those things where I was joking that like what happens in Vegas like is none of my business. This is the exact opposite. What happened in Vegas came and landed on this podcast. My gracious. But yeah, we did it. It was so much fun. Just talking about like current day basketball, like the Hornets are on a roll right now, and it would not have been the way we planned it. That's for sure. and truly, like if you think about how the planning phase of the presentation went, we didn't like Brandon Miller. Like we didn't want him on the team. We actually preferred Scoot Henderson, and this is why this isn't our job. Because Brandon Miller's paying off very well. The Hornets are like 34-33 or something. They're like, it's weird. They went on this crazy run. They've been like the number 1 team in net rating or offensive rating since like January 1st. But it's because they're just like, they're splashing threes like crazy. Moussa Diabate's like shoring up the back line. The lineup of LaMelo, Khan, Brandon Miller, and Moussa Diabate is like so positive right now. But like they had such a bad start to the season that like even though they're like number 1 in so many things since March 1st, they're like 34-33 and they're 10th in the East. And they're like pretty definitively 10th in the East. Like the usual play-in suspects like the Heat, the Hawks, you know, like they're on runs themselves. Like Bam just scored 83 points. Like what the heck? Like I still can't really wrap my head around that. 83 points in the game is so insane. But the Heat are on a run, and so are the Hawks. And the shame is that just last week the Heat won the head-to-head against Charlotte. Charlotte would have jumped them in the standings, and now the Heat are still like on a crazy run right now. And I mean, Charlotte's like 4.5 games, I think, ahead of Milwaukee in 11. So like Charlotte's gonna be in the play-in, but it's just a shame that like they had such a bad start to the season, because with a run like that, you would want to be hosting, or you would want to be out of the play-in. Let's call it that way. You would want to be like the 6th seed. But even though they were close, like there's just so much ground they have to make up in like the last 15 or so games. Man, Charlotte's they're so fun. I actually just went to a Wizards game, went to a Wizards Pacers game. I was on the broadcast because I was sitting behind the broadcast team, which was kind of funny. But that was fun. The Wizards have something exciting going on. Got Trae Young, got Anthony Davis, which could not have assumed that would happen. But the youngins are cool. Trey Johnson's cool. Bilal, wing defender. Keyshawn George, cool. Will Riley popping up. Like, we're going crazy. We'll see. We'll see how the lottery goes, because I really don't know how you go wrong with what these picks have to offer. I just know where you do go wrong is the New Orleans Pelicans drafting, using an unprotected first to trade up for Derek Queen. And I love Derek Queen, but why not just take him at 7? Why not just take him at 7 where you took Jeremiah Fears? Like, if you wanted him that bad, you don't trade a 2026 unprotected first round pick. Are you serious? Like, what are they doing? And then the Pacers with one of the craziest moves ever. Right before Hallie's like out for the season, the Pacers, or right around when like it was determined Hallie would be out for the season, the Pacers traded back, like, for their first round pick back from New Orleans. So New Orleans would have had the Pacers 2026 first round pick this year. And then in a move of pure foresight, the Pacers got it back from them. And I'm like, this is insane. How? How did they do that? But good front offices do good things. OKC looks cool. Wemby is Godzilla's here. French Godzilla is here. It's scary. Don't know what to do. The Lakers are 3rd in the West, but like teams 3 through 7 in the West are separated by like a game and a half or something like that. So like the Lakers could be in the play-in just as easily as they could be the 3rd overall team in the West. The Nuggets are interesting. They've been very hurt. Very, very hurt. Like, Jokic missed like a good chunk, but like Aaron Gordon went for like 50 first game of the season, and then he's like barely played. Peyton Watson was breaking out, and then he got hurt. It's like a hamstring thing. It's probably like, I think it was like 3 to 4 weeks he was out, or still is out, and it's still part of that 3 to 4 weeks. Jamal Murray's finally an all-star. Very interesting over there. Shea's MVP. That's pretty set in stone. The Pistons are good. The Knicks are good. The heckin' Celtics are good. Jason Tatum's back. The Celtics were good without him, which was wild. The Raptors started out solid, and then Raptors. The Sixers are playing Tyrese Maxey too many minutes. They traded Jared McCain, which was sad, because it seems like everyone loves Jared McCain. And I think I may have mentioned this. I didn't. Did I mention this? I didn't mention this. I'm not going to say like I always knew Jared McCain would be good, because he's not going to be Shea. At least I don't think, right? But something really funny about Jared McCain was that he always played against Bronny, specifically in high school. And Sierra Canyon's teams were always really good. And Jared, I forget where he went. I think it was Centennial High School in California. Every time they would meet Sierra Canyon in the playoffs, Jared McCain's team would win every single time. And I'm just like, you're beating like a superpower prep school every time. And he's just so good. And he does little TikToks. And I think his farewell TikTok to the Sixers fans to a couple of minutes by Olivia Dean was so funny, because the edits to it were so good. They were so good. But so proud of him. Anyway, the long and short of it is I'm very excited for how this season's going to wrap up. March Madness popping up soon. I have no thoughts on March Madness at this point. Women's March Madness should be fun. The Sweet 16 in from Women's March Madness is always cool. Men's, I'm just not sure, because Caleb Wilson's out for the season. Darren Peterson's like good. Like I'm sure he's going to be like, he's one of the best guard prospects ever. Like since Markelle Fultz, no lie. But I just don't know what it's going to look like for Kansas. Just not sure. Not sure. JT Toppin for Texas Tech got hurt. He's out for the season, which is a shame. Duke's still good. Boozer, both the Boozers good, but Cameron Boozer, he's the guy. So I don't know. No thoughts on men's March Madness. I just hope it's fun. I will be out of the country for March Madness for the first time ever. So we'll see how it goes. But I appreciate you all tapping in with me. I will be back for another episode relatively soon, trying to do every other week save for vacations, and I have a pretty big vacation popping up. But thank you all for tapping in with me. Appreciate being able to share such a fun story, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Hope you all stay safe, stay hydrated, and I'll see you all next time.